opportunity in agriculture in West Virginia. I was always a member of the Ag Committee. I chaired the Finance Committee, so I looked at the funding mechanism and knew that there was a significant opportunity in West Virginia, because we had turned from an agrarian state in the 30s when we were all agriculture. We had turned to a heavy industrial state. Up north in the northern panhandle, we dealt with steel. We had 25,000 jobs. We had 14,000 under the roof of Weirton Steel. And so the people left the mountain farms, and where there was grazing and there was opportunities for the growth of cattle, and even they had a milk cow, they had the hogs, they had the chickens, and they grew all those things. And they also grew all the vegetables they ate. They didn't import it. It was a different day in West Virginia. It was a positive day in West Virginia. And so not only northern panhandle, but here and further south on 79, we had a significant glass industry. Western West Virginia was one of the great glass areas of the country. And if you travel further down, had the chemical center of the world in Kanawha County. So people left agriculture and went to those industries. And then we had 125,000 coal miners at their peaks. And so when you look at that heavy industrial base of West Virginia, and there was many, many more cities. Huntington was involved in glass. Kanawha City had a huge glass plant with Libby Owens Ford on McCorkle Avenue. You look at all those things and you can see why that we changed. They went from a hard day's work to one that was a little less, had all the benefit package we can see. So they got away from agriculture. We're trying to come back. That's what we're trying to do. We're not out here saying that we're the brightest people in the world, that we're going to invent a wheel called agriculture. No, we want to look at those areas that we know that we've been successful in over the years. WVU, Potomac State, and West Virginia State tells us that we can do this, that, and the other thing. So we're in the process of doing it. Now, before I get into I'll go to the operation of the vegetable industry, where we're going to put 2 little canneries in West Virginia. They're not going to be big. We're going to have one over Tucker County for the growers in that particular areas of the product that can be given some shelf life. We will can there, for instance, the first product we're going to do over there is going to be blue lake green beans, because we got to sell for 94,000 cans. We'll sell them back to ourselves. We eat in West Virginia $7.3 billion worth of food, and we grow less than one, and significantly less than one. So I say that because there's one opportunity. That one opportunity is just in one product. And then we also sell to the school system $110 million. People in this room who've made a significant difference in what I want to do, what we want to do, and I like to get away from the I, but what truly we want to do in agriculture. And that's to move it forward, to look at the cost of putting a small processing operation for beef now that's going to the West, to see if we can be competitive, to see if West Virginians can grow a product in West Virginia, on West Virginia land, to be consumed by West Virginians. We want to see if that's possible. So we look at the small processing opportunities. We're now researching it. We've hired a gentleman from over in Mason County, Lanny Wimpson, to do just that. He's a businessman that's retired. He works part-time for us. We don't pay him much. He wants to be a part of it, but he's just researching the possibility of us processing our meat animals in West Virginia, to see if we can increase the value of that animal here in the state to be consumed by West Virginia. We're now sending them to the West. They're now coming back. We're looking at that process. We have purchased, with some advice now, some people that's in this room, as I look around, we purchased a portable processing plant for small animals. And we think it's something that's very necessary in the state. And that'll process small flocks of turkeys, small flocks of chickens and rabbits, the smaller industries that we think that we can start a basis and build those industries. But we purchased, and I'll just give you the price, we spent $150,000 on it. It's being manufactured now in the state of Ohio. It's supposed to be the Cadillac of the industry. We checked with other states, and they said if you do this, that, and other thing, yeah, you'll be all right. You'll be all right, because this is the type plant. This is the best. So we're going to see. We're going to look at putting the locations where we will bring the mobile units, so that people in that area, take a little while, a year or two, to get it under structure, but we'll do that. And so that's the things that we're doing, looking at at processing plants that are stabilized units, and then also the mobile unit in the state. But then we get over into the vegetable industry, the canneries that I mentioned earlier, the one in Tucker County, another small one at our building at Fairplain in Jackson County. We have that distribution system, so it's a natural for us to do it there. We will contact those growers in those areas. We've already done a lot of it, obviously, and so we think we're all right in what we're doing. We've got the money to do it. We've been very tight, is the best word to use, with our money, and so we put the money over not into operation expense, but into capital outlay. We think that the agriculture communities of West Virginia will be well served if we spend the money that we can get a hold of, any extra money that we can get a hold of, if we can spend it in capital outlay. And so we're now in the process of spending $250,000. Now I want to say that Bill Stewart is conservation supervisor in Guyan Valley District. But boy, what a support he's been for us in agriculture. So we're together with not only Bill, but there's others in there too. We've got many that's helping us put together a significant potato operation. We call it, Jim, Gerrish, who I want to talk about here in a minute, we call it significant in West Virginia. We're trying to get to 1,000 acres this year of potatoes. We got to sell for them. We sell them through U.S. Foods and sell them back to ourselves because, again, the school system's buying $110 million worth of food in West Virginia. So we only look to sell $5 or $6 million worth this year. But we're laying out a pattern that can be followed for many, many years to come. And when I was talking to Jim there a moment ago, Joe introduced me to him, Idaho, and I knew that. I looked at the bio as Idaho. Well, when you talk potatoes, you talk Idaho. We're trying to get to 1,000 acres. Last year they did 317,000. They have a huge industry in Idaho. We know that we got a good land that you folks have got out there. And we know if we develop it right, we'll have harder workers, maybe a little harder. Now we know that we're not going to get in your pocketbook very much. We understand that. We're going to get in a little bit though. We're going to turn a little bit of process around. We have one customer in West Virginia that buys 3 railroad boxcar loads of potatoes a week, and they get them from Idaho. 3 railroad boxcar loads a week. That's 10.5 tractor and trailer loads, but the distance of 2,400 miles, a little too far to bring them by truck, so they bring them by rail. We deal with those people. It takes 8 days to get them here. And so we look at the fresh movement in the country and say, yeah, can we do it? Absolutely, we can do it, and we feel good about it. We're going to fail on part of what we're trying to do, but we're not going to fail significantly. We're going to get back up, and we're going to use the people like I mentioned earlier there with Bill Stewart. Bill was heading up that entire program of potatoes on the western side of the state. And if it doesn't work, we feel very strongly that the ladies at Lake and Community Correctional Facility, last year they grew, they're prisoners there, but they become friends of ours. We deal with them. They want to work every day because we got that good land on the western side of the state. And they grew 2,000 dozen ears of corn for us. They grew 6,000 pounds of cabbage, all quality product. Now, we had people overseeing it, not me. I have no idea how to do that. But they do. I know how to put the plan together. But those women work. We think we can build a workforce. We understand we got a problem with the workforce in West Virginia. It is not good at all. And so we're looking at every aspect from the farm, working with the Farm Bureau and working with the Future Farmers of America, even down to our forage programs. But again, we think that the things that we're working with, the vegetable industry, with the meat industry, the niche markets, the honey industry, we deal with them. We spend a lot of time with them. We say, what do we have to do to take it to the next level? And we've got some pretty good people, we think. But I do want to take this opportunity. I'll tell others, but I want to share it with you that one of your people's in this room today, Bill Stewart, has been a significant help to the department, and he's put together a number of people on the western side. We'll have an aggregation point in honey, and we'll aggregate product there from 7 different counties, and we'll have processing potatoes and whatever. We processed about 250,000 pounds at Hutton'sville last year, Joe, and we'll do that again. We're going to expand it. We had 15 acres. We're going to go to about 60 acres up there this year of our own. And so, yeah, we're going to look at all the different things that we can grow. And we can grow them at higher elevations, yeah. We know about the new technology about growing inside. We went to Chicago to look at a company that grows inside product. They had two big warehouses. And basically, as far as you could see in the warehouse, they were growing different types of vegetables, lettuce, radishes, whatever. But they were going from the ceiling down every 4 feet. They had rows of product. They didn't want the natural light. They didn't want Mother Nature. They wanted LED lighting. And so every time that we do a comparison, we do better than they do. In this case, and I can give you the comparison on the hogs that we're doing down south with North Carolina. I don't have time for that, but I can say this. In that comparison, let me give you one comparison. So I asked the people in Chicago, what are you really doing here? And they said, well, the fresh movement is that we can pick between 2 and 3 o'clock, and we can pick a huge amount in these two big facilities, and we can have it on the dinner plate because there's 3 million people here. 3 million people. And obviously that catches your eye. So I said, that's your main focus. I said, what's your problem? They said, well, everybody in the United States has a problem with the labor force. We have a little problem with the labor force. But our biggest problem is the cost of electricity. Now, they don't have to deal with the deer tearing up their crops because they got it inside. They don't have to deal with groundhogs. They don't have to deal with all those things that we have to deal with in West Virginia if you're going outside. But the movement, a lot of it is inside growth. I just wanted to share that because they pay 10 cents per kilowatt hour for electricity. Now, they do have 3 million people. So they everything that they grow, they harvest all day long using those hydraulic scissor jacks from the floor up. Everything they grow, they sell that evening in Chicago. It's a significant business. They made no bones about it. But in West Virginia, where they're paying their biggest cost is the cost of electricity. 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Ours, 7. So we beat them. Can we compete in the labor force? I think we can compete. I know we don't have a good one. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. But we will teach a lot of people. That's why we get to the ladies at Lincoln. We tell them, listen, if you will learn how to be a grower or a farmer, you won't have to stay in this dang place. You can go home and make a living. You can make it right here in the hills of West Virginia. Having said that, we stack up with anybody, anywhere because of our location. When they talk about 3 million people, we asked those people to come to West Virginia, and they did. We asked them to come to Moorefield and to Martinsburg. And the reason that I want them in Martinsburg, because if you're standing in Martinsburg and leave Martinsburg, it only takes you a short while to be over to 10 million people. Northern Virginia, Washington, Baltimore area, we got those numbers because we were looking at, when I was in the Senate as chair of finance, we looked at evacuating that area because of the crises that's around the world. And we come up with that number. There's 10 million people that would have to be evacuated. Those 10 million people have to be fed. You can grow it in Martinsburg. You can grow it in the Eastern Panhandle, in any of those areas, and have it in Washington. Where Chicago brags on 3, we go to 10. So yeah, every place you look, significant opportunity. At the end of the day, it comes down to this. Are we big enough to change? Because again, the change is $6 billion. And I think we are. I want to say I appreciate the input that you've helped us with over the last year and a half. And we're going to be asking for your help again. We look forward to working with you on a regular basis. And blending into that, the gentleman I want to introduce, you folks listened to him yesterday, but when I was just looking at the bio, I look at Idaho, because they're a state that has 200,000 less people than West Virginia, and yet they are so big in agriculture. And so it catches my eye. They're number 1 in potatoes, they're number 1 in trout. And so, and getting into that, so Jim is in an area where every day where we breathe a little coal dust in West Virginia have, and I'm so proud of it for the last 100 years. They know what it is to raise potatoes in a significant way and to grow trout. And I've been there, visited those places. Jim, a wonderful place. But he also has experience in Illinois. And my goodness, came from where my mother came from, over in Kentucky. He was over there. Them people are a little different. They don't dance to the same drum that we dance to in West Virginia. That's why we had a feud, Jim. You know, we didn't like those people across the Kentucky. And so if you're here and you do the right things, you'll be fine. Just don't tell me you're from Kentucky, not from the western part anyway. But Anyway, saying those things, the eastern part of Kentucky, around Pikeville, just say, I don't know where that place is at. But in any event, Jim brings so much to the table, and a lot of what we want to do. So I'm sure the conference here that's now in operation will have a significant benefit to us. We let a lot of our farmland grow up over the years. When the federal government bought in Pocahontas County when I was a county commissioner, they owned 312,000 there out of 604. They owned 312 out of 604,000 acres. The federal government did. A lot of that was mountain farms, that was some of our premier farmland. But they bought it up and let it grow up because it's considered a recreation area for Washington. I opposed every dang one of them. Every one of them purchases I opposed, but it's hard to oppose the United States of America. I tried on a couple other issues. It's hard to win, but again, with modern technology and the things you have to share with us, Jim, I think you'll be very, very helpful. And through listening to people like Jim Gerrish, West Virginia will be well served. So thanks for allowing me to be a part of it, and thanks for having people here with the qualifications of Jim Gerrish. And thanks, Joe, for allowing me to come in. Give him a big hand.
It's fine, leave it alone. He knows what he's doing.
Okay, we gotta turn the other mic back on when he's done for Judge Young.
Yeah, they're both on there.
Just make sure it's in his right pocket.
Good morning. Good morning. I guess all the equipment works today.
All right.
Mr. Cummins was talking about growth potatoes in Idaho. I said, well, I'm not going to cover Idaho with growth potatoes. And one of the reasons why is the weather. You see that picture, we got the irrigation naturally. We make waterfalls and stuff. But ten miles down the valley from us, there's a weather station in May, Idaho. Been there since 1941. So in the 70s, a little over 70 years since 1941, there are roughly 2 calendar days on which it is not frozen at some time. That's 71 years. July 26th, July 27th are the only 2 days on which it has never frozen. And that's why we say, if summer comes on a weekend this year, let's have a picnic. There's no farming as such in our area. It's all ranch and irrigated land. It's either made into hay to feed the cattle that are there, or it's grazed. At our location, it's only grazing. They did make some hay up there up until 2009, but there hasn't been any there since 2009. Now, the picture that's right here, because my topic today is about stock grade, area capacity, stock density. You might look at that picture and say, man, that's a lot of cattle packed in there. And yeah, that is a lot of cattle packed in there. And you might look at the little pie piece where they were yesterday, and you might say, well, it looks like you chewed that down to nothing and trampled the ground. Is that what we really want to do? Not most of the time, but what we are doing there is reseeding clover in that pasture. We rested Stocking rate is simply the number of animals or animal live weight. And when I talk about stocking rate, I'm usually looking at it animal live weight. Because I can say, oh, we got a cow 2 acres. Well, is it a 1,000-pound cow or a 1,500-pound cow? Makes a big difference. So stocking rate, the amount of animal live weight assigned to a grazing unit on a seasonal basis. So we have 200 acres. We put 100 cows out there. Our stocking rate is 1 cow 2 acres. Or, let's see what it says there. Now, we'll use the example that's in the program, right? We have 10 head on 10 acres. So the stocking rate is 1 head per acre. Now, if these cows weigh 1,200 pounds apiece, our stocking rate is 1,200 pounds to the acre. If I had sheep, you know what? I could still run a stocking rate of 1,200 pounds per acre, but I'd have about 8 ewes per acre if they were weighing 150 pounds apiece. If I'm running stockers, you can put 2 600-pound steers out there. So that's why I like using the expression stocking rate as pounds per acre, not head per acre, because it lets us move across animal species and flags a little more equally. Okay, so that's what stocking rate is. Stocking rate is simply what we choose to put out there, the number of animals we put out there. Now, see this pasture here? Hopefully some of you can see this is probably grazed a little beyond where we would like it to be. This pasture is stocked beyond what the resource will bear. There's simply too many animals out there for the land area. We're going to revisit this place several times over the next hour. This is on a ranch about 5 miles down the valley from us. So, same climate. This is also a sprinkler irrigated pasture. And if you are watering at the right rate, you should never see running water on the surface of a sprinkler irrigated pasture. You see that water running down there? That is a broken water cycle. You shouldn't have water running like that. 5 miles up the road, this is our place. And it's stocked appropriately for what the resource will bear. What's the difference between these two? Same environment, similar amounts of water bill and all that. Grazing management is the difference between these two locations. Brings us to the concept of carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is the stocking rate that provides a target level of performance while maintaining the effective resource value. What does that mean in simple terms? It's the stocking rate at which you can make money and do year after year without degrading the resource. Hopefully actually making the resource better. So stocking rate and carrying capacity are two different things. Stocking rate is what we put out there. Carrying capacity is what the resource can actually support in a productive way. So carrying capacity is determined through the combination of environment and management. Now we changed our environment with irrigation out there. Now these concepts apply whether we're talking about grain-fed pasture in West Virginia, desert rangeland in West Texas, or irrigated pasture in Idaho. These concepts apply across all of them. Here's a really important one. Water makes grass grow. And what this table has in the, excuse me, I got to reorient myself to the room again. The left-hand column is the precipitation regime, and it's in 5-inch increments. The next column, that expected growth, that's the pounds of dry matter forage production expected per inch of water received. And I should qualify that by saying expected water received. Then if you take the low number in the precipitation range, multiply times the low number in the expected growth column, and high times high, you get what the expected range in forage production for that precipitation regime would be. This is based on having an adaptive plant community growing out there on the pasture and having a reasonably healthy soil. West Virginia that typically only get 35, 40 inches? Roughed up. Okay. So, what this table tells us is the more water that's available in the environment up to a point, you will get increased productivity, and you would expect that, but each inch of water gives you a higher yield potential. Why does this happen? If we go to this real dry environment, rainfall events tend to be small events. 4/10 of an inch of rain is a big rainfall event for us. Well, that water can only penetrate so far into the soil, on a given period of time. We have, and when we get a rainfall, very often, it isn't a storm, then it clears off, it's sunny, and you can start evaporating that water out. So that's one factor. Is small rainfall events don't have as great value as somewhat large. Now, 3-inch rainfalls don't do you a whole lot good either because there's not very many soils that can infiltrate water at that rate so it gets around. So not all that water that falls is useful. But one of the really interesting factors in an environment like this, if you're getting 35, 40 inches of rainfall, hopefully everybody understands that you've got the top part of the plant and the bottom part of the plant, right? In an environment with this much water, the partitioning of energy for photosynthesis, about half of it goes to above ground growth, about half goes to below ground growth. Our natural rainfall, where I live now in Idaho, is 8 inches a year. And in that environment, only 20 to 30% of photosynthetic energy goes to top growth of the plant. 70 to 80% goes below ground. Why? Because our rangeland plants are geared towards the idea of long-term survival. And long-term survival is based on having a root system, not having a huge growth up top, because it's the growth up top that uses up water. Now here, that plant is going to put another leaf out. If anytime it's warm enough, it's going to try to put another leaf out because it believes, hell, it's going to rain next week. There's no problem. I'll put another leaf out. But it's geared towards productivity, making the seed drop, and so the behavior of the plant is different. So the amount of water that you receive is obviously going to drive your yield. You could live in an environment that gets 35, 40 inches of rainfall, but if most of that water just runs off the surface down the creek, you don't have 35 inches of effective precipitation. That's what the total is. And then if you don't have an adaptive plant community growing on there, you're going to lose some growth efficiency. If your soil isn't healthy, you're going to lose some growth efficiency there. That can happen to be We work on down through there, and it tells us how many animal unit days per acre we would expect the productivity to be. Standard animal unit day is 26 pounds. So we just take total yield, how much we plan to utilize, divide by 26, that gives us animal unit days. We put in how long is our expected grazing period. We get how many acres it takes to feed an animal. So, all down there. Point I really want to make here. There are only two things that you can actually manage that changes carrying capacity. Your yield per inch of water and the effective utilization rate of that pasture. Those are anywhere in the world, in the desert, under irrigation, here in West Virginia hills. Those are the only two things they really manage to change carrying capacity. The yield per inch of water. So that tells you anything you can do to make your soil healthier so that water soaks in, increase your organic matter so it holds more water. That's the number one factor for increasing the carrying capacity potential of your land. Is to change the water relationships in your soil. And then number two is more effectively harvest the forage that you grow through better grazing management. And people go, what about putting on fertilizer? You ever see fertilizer work in a dry year? You put on all the nitrogen fertilizer you want, and if it doesn't rain, you don't increase the yield significantly. What about seeding that latest wonderful super grass from New Zealand? In the absence of water, it doesn't work. So everything, fertility, reseeding, all of that, it comes back to water. So the real focus is how do I make my soil hold more water? All right. What else besides just the amount of water affects what you can grow? Well, length of growing season is obviously one of them. Let's go down to Georgia. How long's the growing season in Georgia likely to be? Probably 250 days, maybe even longer. Now let's go up to Vermont. What's the growing season in Vermont? Not near as long. Maybe 140 days or something. And you're somewhere in between here. So yeah, absolutely the length of the growing season is going to make a difference. And you have a real hard time changing that part of the environment. When the temperatures are going to get cold, when they get warm, soil type and condition. Some soils naturally hold more water than others. Some soils naturally have more inherent fertility than others. That's going to be a factor. The past mentioned is how badly is it eroded, what's the plant community out there, what's the expected level of management. Those are factors, but the overwhelming factor always comes back to water. So in grazing management, that's the key focus. How many of you are familiar with the USDA soil survey system? Okay. Quite a few. The soil, sometime over the last 40 to 50 years, and there's a few places it's still happening now, a soil scientist from NRCS, and back in the day with Soil Conservation Service, they have been across almost all the agricultural soils in America. In a lot of cases, this soil scientist, typically they're kind of angry bachelor types. They don't like hanging out with people because they spend hours and hours and days, putting down soil probes, looking at soil, assessing it. But they've done that on almost every acre of soil in America now. And so we have these soil surveys, and they used to be, you'd go to the USDA office, and they have these big gray books with huge fold-out maps, and 87,000 pages of tables that you could never find what you were looking for. And now they have this beautiful page. There are some agencies of the government that have a functional website, just so you know. USDA is one of the, and to me, the soil survey is one of the best things that NRCS has ever done, because I can go there, outline a property, put in some queries to get some information, and I get all kinds of wonderful information there. I do consulting, work all over the country. I counted up not long ago, 42 states utilization calculation, and then the soil survey work. These soil survey ones, in my experience, tend to be a little on the conservative side. So it's for a person who's been just turning cattle out, continuous grazing for a year. This gives you a target to work to. But the better grazers with several years of experience will generally use these numbers anywhere from 20 to 40%. So the potential is there. The shocking thing is if you have done an assessment of what you're actually harvesting on your property right now through grazing and compare it to the soil survey, most people are running well below what the soil survey says. What does that mean? We got opportunity. Your commission was here talking about the opportunity, and I'll tell you, you got opportunity too. But I'll guarantee you, just about every pasture in West Virginia is operating at 1/3 to 1/2 the potential. 1/3 to 1/2 the potential. That's what we see nationwide. It's rare that I go to an operation that is even producing at this soil survey level. And then when we work with them, make those changes in management, and improve water holding capacity, plant community that's grown there, and grazing management, then you get people to these levels and beyond. Usually in 3 to 5 years. In the wetter part of the country, in 3 to 5 years, we can go from producing at the 1/3 to 1/2 level to the full capacity that's shown here or more. You realize that's a 2 to 3-fold increase in productivity and carrying capacity? You know what? Pardon my friend, that's pretty damn profound. That's the opportunity that we have, and that's why I'm so excited about Pasture. Okay, so what really affects carrying capacity are these things right here. Forage production, seasonal utilization rate, daily intake, and length of grazing. We'll go through that. Forage production. What can you do to change forage production? Well, out west, we irrigate. You can put on fertilizer. I once heard the definition of an agronomist as someone who never ceases to be amazed that nitrogen makes grass grow. You put on nitrogen fertilizer, it turns green, and it grows. Wow! We know we can interseed legumes into fescue pasture. We can put clover into fescue pasture. We can put ryegrass into Bermuda grass pastures. We can interseed things, or we can tear things up and plant something completely new, different, totally exciting. What do those 4 things have in common? Cost money. Yeah, they all take water, but cost money. Well, it's just an arrow. They all cost money. And it's pretty apparent what they cost, because generally, you get a bill and you write a check for that amount. And you know what it costs. You can, and if it gives you 30% more grazing days per acre, plus you did something there, or 50%, you know what it costs you to get that increase in production. Because you wrote a check for it. What about grazing management? Does anybody in this room believe that just changing grazing management can change the productivity of the pasture? Absolutely, yeah. Hey, hallelujah! That's the gospel we're preaching today. Is change your grazing management, you can change productivity. It happens. What does grazing management cost? Oh, some people said nothing. That's all I put the little 0 up. I heard somebody say time. You need the infrastructure. To do an effective job of grazing management, we generally need more stock water development out across the landscape. We put in more fences. We have time, because we're going to go out there every day now, and we're going to move the livestock from one place to the other. So we have labor costs. We have infrastructure costs. What other costs do you incur if you can now run 50% more livestock than you were running last year? You could have a substantial investment in additional livestock. So grazing management does come at a cost. Does anybody believe, and hopefully if you weren't sleeping yesterday morning, you'll all believe this, the amount of residual you leave after grazing, does that make a difference in the productivity of the pasture? Yeah, we showed that pretty clearly yesterday. What does it cost some kind of an answer, or at least a number. So we're going to assume we have pasture capable of producing 4 tons of forage a year, so 8,000 pounds per acre. If we rotate them every, 3-4 days, we can probably get a 65% utilization rate. Intake, we usually express it a percent of the animal's body weight. 2.6% would be a moderate level of performance, and that 2.6% what it actually means is for every pound of animal's body weight, they eat 0.0626 pounds for it. We have to do it that way because sometimes we have engineers in the crowd, and they get really bent out of shape if your units don't cancel out in formula. So that's what to do. That's just for engineers. And then blanket grazers either way. From this pasture unit, we expect 200 days of grazing. We plug the numbers in. Excuse me, and it comes out something like this. And wow, 1,000 pounds of live weight grain. That is one standard animal unit. I got lucky on the numbers I picked this one. Now, most people in the eastern part of the country don't really relate to animal units, so we'll put it in real clear terms. If you have 1,300 pound cows, that means that 200-day period, you would need about 1.3 acres allocated per cow, and they should be able to leave the pasture in good condition and meet their intake needs to get the performance started. If you're running stockers, you need 0.7 acres, 7/10 of an acre for 1 700-pound steer. Is this stuff absolutely true? Of course it's not absolutely true. Because for that to happen, we would have to have a uniform forage growth through the entire season, which we don't. There's always going to be times of excess and periods of deficit. It's just the nature of how the plant cycle goes. One of my brothers lives on the Big Island of Hawaii. They got 2 grass farms there. And even on at their Wahoy farm, they get 120 inches of rain, 120 to 140 inches of rain a year. And you know what? They can still have a 4 to 6 week dry spell. And so even in Hawaii, it doesn't always go at the same rate. And then it also assumes that the intake level of the animal is constant. Well, if you are growing stockers, and if they ate the same amount of forage every day for 200 days, what would their rate of gain look like? It's going to be, initially they did, then they flat, and then they'd be losing farmers. Or at least holding steady, because as the animals grow, each day they need to eat more pounds of forage, right? And then if you have a cow, she calves, demand shoots up. We get peak lactation, 45, 60 days after calving, that's when she has her highest demand. Her milk production starts falling off, the demand goes down, the wean calf is way down here. So that demand is always changing. So the best that this does, it gives you a ballpark estimate of how many animals this farm might support. And it becomes your job to check to fit the stocking rate to meet that seasonal carrying capacity. This is too many people try to work with just the same number of animals through an extended period of time, and that's why they get short on feed, or they have excesses, they have bail on pay, because they have not matched stocking rate to the carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is what fluctuates through the season. That's why we should be able to change the stocking rate. Okay, so what's some of the tools we use to manage that stocking rate to fit carrying capacity? And that's when we come to stock density, which in my viewpoint is the most powerful tool that grazers have in the toolbox for managing plants, soil, and animals. So we defined what the stocking rate was, the number of animals per animal live weight assigned to grazing unit on a seasonal basis. When I was in school in the 1970s, in no forage course, in no animal course, in no textbook, did I ever read the term stock density. Okay, so there was our example. We have our 10 heads out there on 10 acres. And if they're continuously grazing in that pasture, each one of those animals could be standing on their 1 acre grazing at one time. So instead of stocking, stock density and stock rate are identical. subdivide the pasture and shorten the period of time that the animals are on this one particular piece, we increase stock density. When you have gone from stock density of 1,200 pounds, 24,000 pounds, now you can start to see changes in the plant community. The amount of residual you leave behind you can increase. That's going to add to the organic matter. It's going to start changing the water infiltration characteristics of the soil, water storage capacity of the soil. You can start mowing the grass a little more evenly. You get a little better clear distribution. That's at 24,000 pounds. I think I mentioned yesterday that our normal working range on our irrigated pasture is 60 to 90,000 pounds per acre. We were in Missouri, on natural rainfall patches, we were generally somewhere between about 40 and 60,000 pound stock density on a daily rotation basis. This picture here gives you a visible depiction of what different stock densities look like. This front pasture here has, it's about an 80-acre pasture, and there's 40 replacement heifers on it, just turned out that stock. So you see the scattering of animals there. In the background, then we have sorry, we're going to come back to life here. Okay, so in the background, that stock density is 300,000 pounds of live weight per acre. Now remember, stock density is at a point in time, not for a period of time. How do you get 300,000 pounds? You do it by moving multiple times per day. Because, again, emphasizing it at a point in time. The cattle back there, that's a little over 500 cow-calf pairs on 2.5 acres. And they're there for about 3 hours each. Those cattle back there are getting moved 3 or 4 times a day. You sit, I'm going to actually back up one. You see that black color in the pastures behind that? And you might think, well, they traveled and turned it to mud. That's actually cow manure. These fields are literally painted with cow manure. That isn't mud churned up. You've heard the mob grazers talk about how quickly their pastures recover after they graze for just a couple hours and animals fade away. The amount of nitrogen that is put down at this type of stock density, in terms of just the urinary nitrogen, the readily available nitrogen, is going to be there at about depends on 4 factors. How much grass do you have? How much energy you want to use? What do the animals need to eat? And how long are they going to be in that pasture? You cannot create high stock density from low to that pasture. Unless you're willing to go out and move everything. So there's a limitation. And Grazier probably recognized this chart. It's from some work he did in 2000. And it relates the potential intake, forage intake by sheep and cattle based on the available forage out there. That equation, that formula that I put up, is not a mathematical formula. It's a biological relationship. If there's too little forage in the field, the animals can't achieve, their intake potential. And we're generally not looking for 100% intake. Most commercial operations are actually generally hitting probably about 80% intake potential of the animals. If we wanted to stop at a rate where each animal always achieves its full genetic potential for intake, you have so few animals out there we couldn't pay the bills. So as you look at determining what stock density you want to work at, you always have to balance the animal's needs against the amount of forage that is there. If you're on short pasture, you cannot get high yield on the farm. Similarly, you have to look at the length of the grazing period and how it affects the intake potential. This is some work we did in Missouri, looking at a week-long grazing period and and we measured the intake of the cattle every day and how the intake changed over time in one of those grazing periods. First couple days of new pasture, they figured out they've been sheep because they have the opportunity to take big bites and select off the highest quality forage. But by the middle of the week, the opportunity is far way down, and that the red line that goes across at just below 2%, that's maintenance required. At the end of the week, those animals are barely eating at maintenance level. That's a roller coaster diet, going to get real inconsistent for farmers. So you can't put in to the formula the idea that, I'm going to get 3% body weight intake and sustain it over a week time period. This is dynamic grazing includes that math. This one, similar thing, it just shows that over the short of the grazing period, you can utilize more of the starting forage to maintain a fixed level of intake. So basically what I'm saying is you got to understand the biology of this relationship to get the stock density right. But in this example, out in the field today, we have 3,000 pounds of forage, a ton and a half of forage standing in the field. We're going to do a take half and leave half, so we're looking at a 50% utilization target. We're going to leave that intake target at 2.6%, that moderate level of performance. Then we're going to move them every day. We throw the numbers into the formula, do the calculations, this is what it tells us. For these conditions, the appropriate stock density is roughly 58,000 pounds of live weight per acre. So if we put 1,300 pound cows all of that pasture for 24 hours, we should end up utilizing half of the forage. The animals should have consumed the amount of forage they needed to meet our performance target. For the stockers, that was about 82 700 pound animals on 1 acre for 1 day. 50 for Missouri, at 58,000 pounds, that was towards the upper end of what we were doing for stock density on 24-hour moves. If we wanted to graze at 200,000 pound stock density, what would we have to do? We'd be moving them 4 times a day. This is the table here, and what we're looking at is at 2.5% intake target, 50% utilization. If you are in a drought stress situation, or you're out west in normal precipitation situation, and you have a pasture that has 1,000 pounds of forage on it, 20,000 pound stock density is the high yield, unless you move down small utilization target is. You know, a lot of the lawn grazers talk about just trampling 60%, 70% in forage, only eating 30 to 40%. That's when you're in soil building mode. When you're in a mode like that, the utilization target becomes quite low, and because of that, your stock density